members of our Congress, you will always have, within our government, those that are above the law. Hey, it's me. And in this episode, I want to talk about the health of Choco, which seems to be declining rapidly. You know, I last saw him at a rally before the midterms, and he was coming in giving some donuts to some volunteers, and he was so skinny. Now, he's always been skinny, but I'm talking about anorexic type of skinny, and he looks like he's not able to walk in a normal way. He's sweating all the time, like really sweating. He's nervous, he has facial tics, he's stuttering, he's stammering, and he has this voice that cracks, like there's something wrong. It's almost like he lost control of knowing what he sounds like. So he goes off on a tirade about Trump or Republicans, and his voice is changing, he's sweating, and he has this wild look in his eyes, like, you know, somebody who was caught stealing, or somebody who, suddenly somebody was splashing Choco with holy water. I mean, that kind of a look, like, oh my God. And why does he have that wild expression? It's like a wild animal, almost. And I mentioned that he's probably using cocaine to get through the rally, and to have some of that extra pep, and to have the confidence, because with President Trump erasing his so-called legacy and making him look like, yeah, he was the worst president in U.S. history, and Choco himself knows that he lucked out. I mean, he was inexperienced, didn't even have a job in his whole life, not skilled at anything except for reading a teleprompter, and he was a Hollywood creation of sorts. He knows that. So he got out, and suddenly he doesn't have the media protecting him. He doesn't have the system protecting him. And he doesn't have that energy to go out there, because it's not about him. It doesn't help him in any way, but he has always been a puppet, so therefore he also has to do the puppet things. They tell him, go over there and do a rally. He's like, okay. He needs cocaine to have the confidence again, because he knows he's a failed president, he knows he's not popular, and he's talking to a small crowd. A big difference from 2008, and it really eats away. I mean, we're talking about a very insecure person. The narcissism, it's a cover, because otherwise he would become extremely depressed, and yeah, maybe he would end his life. The truth is, he needed cocaine to get through the rally, to talk, to sound energized, ready to go. But even to get through the rally, to have enough energy to talk it, and because he was on cocaine, he doesn't realize that he's motor mouthing and sounding like a retard, and his voice is cracking, and he has that wild look in his face. And the cocaine makes it that, Choco probably thought he was giving the best speech or motivational speech in his life, that he's adored, that he's funny, he's smart. But the truth is, everybody can see that he's like a car wreck. And because of the cocaine, he keeps on talking and makes it worse. Somebody who does cocaine always feels like they're the most popular people around, but they don't realize that they're acting like a douche. And that is pretty much a summary of Choco going out there at rallies just before the midterms. A douchebag. A complete douche. And so, all the cocaine in the world or in Colombia cannot save this skinny goofball, the Prince of Kenya. And I believe that maybe he stopped kind of eating. You take cocaine or other drugs, eating and a healthy diet, it's like secondary. If you're at the White House, you have a schedule. You have your personal chef, and you have meal times, and you have to show up. And even though he's eating a dog or roaches, at least he's eating something. But now that he has all this free time, he first, went to all these countries where you can get drugs. Nobody can see what you're doing. I believe he went to Richard Branson to snort up like a mountain of coke and to have relations with the bisexual Richard Branson. But then off to Indonesia, where I guess they have heroin and everything he needed, like a buffet, because Choco has always been somebody that needed substances. He talked himself about all the weed smoking and, dabbling in other drugs. And it's really true. The guy has always depended on substances. Now, the first medical report that came out when he was president, and since then they stopped giving those updates, because the first one said, the doctor said, that Choco has to cut down on alcohol. Like, he was drinking too much alcohol. You wouldn't know, right? But the guy gets drunk, the guy gets high, because he was goofing off at the White House. He wasn't a real president. But when you get out of the White House, you have less prying eyes. And you have more time that you can be by yourself. And I'm thinking that he just gets high. I would not be surprised if he's hooked on heroin or meth, probably heroin and cocaine, because if you look at him, he's so skinny and unhealthy looking. I cannot believe that this guy is like in his 50s, right? Or, he looks like he's 90 years old, like a homeless bum, or like a starving guy stuck in a dungeon. But he has money, right? They're millionaires. They ripped off the American people. Doesn't he have a schedule to keep? Doesn't he have a dietitian or someone that can make sure that this anorexic goofball eats 3 squares a day and maintains some kind of weight? Because at this point, when the wind blows, you have a Kenyan kite with his big floppy ears, right? Scaring children in the neighborhood. Look at that kite. Damn, a Choco kite. And I worry about it. I don't want Choco to pass away at an early age. Because then we're going to have to see, people in the media and I guess in Congress raving about how this was like one of the best presidents in U.S. history. No, we need more time. We need more time to expose his many lies and failures and to get the truth about who this guy really was and where he was really born and all the crimes he was involved in. It wasn't just Fast and Furious and the IRS and Benghazi and the Iran deal and the uranium deal. That's just the tip of the iceberg, or the tip of the Choco Mountain, if you will. And I could tell you about the health problems of the Clintons, but they're much older, and, who knows what they're into. But if you just compare, Choco is as unhealthy and old as Bill Clinton, who's very frail and about to die. And so what happened to Choco? And the answer, I believe, is drugs. Hard drugs. Sometimes, I believe that maybe the Iranian gargoyle, the handler, maybe she got him hooked on hard drugs to control him, to have him do the things that she wanted him to do for Iran, against our nation. And the reward is, I don't even know the street lingo. Is it brown sugar? Is it 8-ball? Is it, speedball? I don't know. I just don't know. I'm not into drugs. But was she holding it like candy? And he was Choco, performing, doing the things, treasonous activities, criminal activities, in return for a hit, in return for, that next high. I wouldn't be surprised at all, because if you want to control people, if you get them hooked on drugs, and you control the supply, you got a slave. So it could be that Choco is being controlled in this way, but don't get me wrong, even without the drugs, the guy would work against our nation. But I'm just saying, maybe Iran is using the Iranian gargoyle, and then they're using drugs to control Choco. Now, this would have been a bigger problem in the White House, and maybe that's what happened. But I think that if he was hooked, and now he's really hooked, and he has a more free access to any types of drugs that he needs, and he can, spend time laying there for hours with a needle up his arm, passed out or high or whatnot. Nobody would even know. And so, yeah, I worry and not worry about the decline in his health. But definitely, I think that